Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 13th episode of Automation Hangout. Today, we have Pankaj from the OpKey team who has joined us to share insights around test automation as well as some of the latest capabilities of the OpKey platform. So, OpKey is basically an end-to-end testing platform offering support for both enterprise applications as well as custom applications, and they support multiple technologies. So, Pankaj is actually going to walk us through some of the latest developments around the product, and also he'll be sharing some valuable insights because he has been in the industry for the last couple of decades. So he's definitely going to share some interesting insights on what's happening in the world of test automation. To start with, Pankaj, it'd be great if you can actually give us a short introduction about yourself as well as the product, the OpsKey product. Over to you,
Sure,
Pankaj.
sure, man. And George, before I begin, man, thank you so very much for having me here. It's a pleasure to talk to you again. And just so you know, I am a avid listener of your podcast, man. So you are doing a great job over there.
Thank you.
Great. So we started OpKey in 2016, George, and uh, the whole idea with starting OpKey was to make sure that the test automation for packaged applications, ERP, CRM, your HCM applications, we can make that really democratic, and we can help the business users participate in it. Right.
Mhm.
Why did we come up with this idea? I personally have been into test automation space since the beginning of my career. 2002,
Mhm.
I joined Mercury Interactive, which was just setting up its office in India. In fact, I was the second hire in India, and
Okay.
and since then I have been into the test automation journey throughout. I've been part of some very large projects, some of the biggest failures, test automation failures as well, and
Mhm.
they all have been learning, man. So yeah, so I
Okay.
think here we are, and we are trying to make OpKey a kind of platform that really enables the enterprises to move their ERP applications from on-prem to cloud.
Okay, that's really interesting. And Pankaj, you touched upon a very interesting point around test automation project failures. So I've seen a lot of investments being done in the test automation side, but at the same time, I also see projects failing. So why do you think projects are failing, and what are some of the best practices that one can look at in order to prevent a project from failing?
Yeah, it's a great question, man, and I think slightly loaded question, if I may add,
Hmm.
because I have seen different reasons for different failures. But if I have to categorize it, George, I would put it under two categories, man. The way I
Hmm.
see it, the one of the biggest reason I've seen is not the right skill set for automation. You know,
Hmm.
what happens is enterprises. I mean, let's understand what kind of applications are we automating. If it's a custom application like a web and a mobile app, you have to have a kind of technical mindset, right? You are using
Yep.
tools like Selenium and Appium, or even the commercial tools that you have, right? That require a technical mindset. So if your audience don't have that development skills to work with those tools, it's bound to fail,
Yep.
right? Similarly, on the ERP side of it, it's the business application. So if your audience, the business users can't use your platform and automate more and automate fast, I mean, it's gonna be a big negative ROI. And
Hmm.
second thing I would say is around expectation from test automation, man. People, we are still in the old world of Mercury's, or if I say other tools, IBMs and all, where the ROI used to take 6 months and 7 months. With
Yep.
now agile and everything, we don't have that luxury of time. We have to get up and running fast. So the automation onboarding has to be really fast, and that has been two biggest learnings from my side.
Okay, very good point. And I think you touched upon a very important point around skills. So one thing that I've seen is like there is a tendency to actually look at what others are doing and then just try to copy it and implement it within an organization. For example, what works well for an Amazon may not work for maybe a global 2000 kind of a company because you may not have that kind of skill set that what Amazon would be having in your organization. So I think
Yep.
that is one thing that is often I think every organization forgets about skill set when they decide upon a strategy for automation. They go after what you call fancy tools, and then they end up actually having a problem around developing scripts as well as maintaining them. It's a very good point, and even my second question is actually linked to it. So one of the interesting trends that I've seen in the last, I would say, like 2 to 3 years is an increase in the adoption of scriptless automation tool. So why do you think there has been an increase in the last couple of months? Are there factors that are actually influencing these decisions?
A great question, man. Again, I think one of the reason why this no code tools are gaining prominence is to do with a overall the no code development platforms are gaining prominence, right? So if you look at
Hmm.
it, companies want to make sure that the business doesn't lag behind because the developers are going to take some time to build with custom tools and stuff like that, right? So look at
Hmm.
platforms like OutSystems or for
Yep.
the Salesforce, right? So once your development velocity increase, you need your testing velocity to match it, right? And testing also has to go the same no code way where more people irrespective of their skills can come and create test on the fly as you are creating your application and run it, right? So I think
Yep.
that has been one factor, the development of no code platform. Other thing is, if you look at it, the rise of packaged applications. Many of the companies are now starting using pre-built applications like Salesforce for CRM or Oracle Cloud for their financials instead of building it in house. So once that happens, you don't have much luxury in terms of the development skills that you have. Right, your users are
Yep.
primarily business users. So once
Yep.
business users test and they automate, you have to go the no code way. So I think these two
Okay.
factors are actually increasing the rise of no code platforms. Typically, you
Okay,
want to
so it's
make your
basically like the adoption, increase in adoption of package applications like Salesforce, CRM Dynamics, Oracle packages, and then along with that, there are a lot of organizations who are actually doing low code, no code development using out systems, Microsoft Power Apps, Google Sheets, Google Apps, and all of those. So I think it makes sense. For example, it makes sense to actually use a codeless automation tool in order to test a codeless or a, what do you call no code kind of an app. Okay, so that's very interesting. And I think I'm also reading some statistics around the adoption of low code, no code, and we are expecting that I would say like more than 50% of development would be low code, no code, maybe in the next one
absolutely
or
man.
2 years.
That's
So I think
right.
the trend around scriptless automation is going to continue then.
And the pandemic has actually accelerated the entire trend around no code and low code because
Yep.
businesses want to be more agile, right? I mean, they don't
Yep.
now believe in those 6 months, 7 months, or 1 year kind of projects where they go back to IT and ask something. So if
Yes.
business
Yes.
has the power to create applications on the fly and test those applications on the fly, that's nirvana.
Yes, that's true. I think it touched upon a good point. So what I was observing was basically like maybe initially, even maybe like if you look at maybe the post pre-pandemic era, I think only Fortune 500 and companies and maybe some other global 1,000 companies focus on having a digital front end, and small scale businesses or medium scale businesses, only few of them were actually focusing on a digital first strategy or even having a digital front end. Everyone was actually looking at selling their services or products through physical means. Now all of a sudden you actually had a lockdown, you had no option to actually do business physically, then everyone started looking at developing digital products. So that actually increased what do you say, and it was they had very little time to actually what do you say develop these applications. And I think the best option that they had was to, if you want to achieve speed, I definitely have to go with a low code no code approach. And at the same time, you never all these organizations also did not have enough adequate skill set to build these kind of apps. So I think that actually gave rise to what do you call the increased adoption of the low code no code platform. I think anyone who's actually starting a new business from now on will definitely build a digital front end or
So
a
first,
digital what do you call product rather than actually going with a physical mean. So touching upon that point around digital, Pankaj, like how do you think an automation platform can actually improve the quality of a digital app? It can be a website or it can be even a native app that runs on a mobile device.
yeah, yeah, great question again, man. And I completely agree with you. Your observation about being digital first and digital only is spot on, man. I mean, and this date, even the large enterprises, traditional large scale enterprises, with $50 billion of revenue and up, even they are realizing that without a digital front, for their not only for their customers but even for their internal people, right, or their employees and all, it's a must for them to evolve and move into this next phase of their transformation. So from that perspective, digital is coming out as a big part of their strategy. I think what's important with digital is speed, man. I personally have seen that digital is all about speed. Whether you are developing a website, you are developing a mobile app. I mean, you again, and again, I have been repeating this point quite a few times already, but you cannot have those old days of 5 months, 6 months, and then very waterfallish way. You have to be agile, right? You have to take the solution that you are building or you are improving upon to your customers or to your employees faster, get feedback and keep on making changes to it. Look at Facebook, right? I mean, it gives 12 updates to their mobile app a day.
Yep.
Facebook is extreme case, but most of the apps that we work with, most of the companies that we work with as part of OpKey and pCloudy, three or four updates in a week is pretty common with them. So for
Hmm.
that speed to happen, right, we don't want quality to suffer because of that speed. And I don't want to name specifically, but we know what happened to one of the recent super apps, right? That was launched during IPL, and now they are facing the trouble.
Yep.
So, quality can make or break. So, test automation is your gatekeeper to make sure that those quality standards are maintained. And without that required speed in test automation, you cannot maintain that speed in your go-to market. So, if
Okay.
you have to have digital first, test automation has to be the key.
Okay, and I think we also, especially when you're dealing with native apps, Pankaj, what I've seen is like your mobile devices coming into the market almost every day. New mobile models or new vendors coming in with different kinds of mobile devices. And even if you actually do a prioritization of maybe like top 20 devices, that itself is actually a huge effort, right? If you want to execute your test case across multiple, what do you call, device models, as well as maybe browser combinations, that itself is actually a huge task, and it actually adds up to your overall test cycle time also. So I think without automation it's very tough to actually do compatibility testing, right, going forward, because
True.
you have so much
Absolutely.
of what do you call devices and browser versions.
Absolutely. I mean, most of the customers that we work with, right? I mean, they just to cover 80% of market, they have to test with about 25, 30 devices, right?
Yep.
So the same test cycle is being repeated over time, and we know how customized the Android system can get, right? Or how
Yep.
the quirks of iOS system can impact your quality. So,
Yep, that's correct. And the other area of interest for many of our listeners would be artificial intelligence. And I know that artificial intelligence has evolved a lot, especially. And I think if you look at the software development lifecycle, I think testing is an area where a lot of use cases have been successfully implemented around AI. So, from an AI standpoint, what are some of the capabilities, Pankaj, that your organization has actually implemented within the OpKey platform?
yeah. Yeah. So we are leveraging AI in three key areas, George. One is discovery. So what we do is,
Hmm.
since we work and focus as OpKey, we focus on more the packaged application landscape. Let's say we go and work with an organization that has implemented SAP, right? The biggest
Hmm.
problem they face is how can we quickly build test cases around their existing business processes? And for that, we have to understand their process, right? So
Hmm.
what we are doing is we are using a technology called test mining, which is our patented technology that
Hmm.
leverages a lot of AI. So that look into the configuration, that looks into their transactional logs, and then create a model, a testing model that is ideal for them based on their industry, what their peers are doing, what their competitors are doing, and stuff like that. That's
Hmm.
that's where we are using a bulk of AI for the discovery piece of it, right? And
Hmm.
then based on that, what we do is we have these pre-built test accelerators for SAP or Oracle or Salesforce. They get adapted to that particular model that we have created. So a
Hmm.
part of neuro learning is used over there as well, right? Because
Okay.
most of the test cases are in the format of words, or natural language processing is required to parse them into a machine readable format. So
Hmm.
we are using NLP and a part of AI over there, right? But where we are using AI most, if I have to say, in terms of the end-to-end life cycle, is the change management. Because
Okay.
now with these ERP applications, the changes are coming every quarter, right? Or in case of Microsoft Dynamics, every month. So how do you maintain your test cases or your automated test cases? That's going to define the success of your initiative, and that's where we
Okay.
use a lot of AI to understand the changes and do a self healing. And
Hmm.
I can now proudly say that 95% of changes coming across these enterprise applications are handled automatically by OpKey, and your maintenance becomes almost like a single click.
Okay, that saves a lot of time because I've seen organizations having a lot of false failures when they try to execute the regression pack. Maybe if we execute 100 scripts, maybe 15 of them would actually fail because of an object locator issue or a UI identification issue. And if you can actually eliminate that effort, it saves a lot of time. Normally, what I've seen is like people actually go and execute those test cases manually because they may not even have time to go and fix the issue. But if you actually have something like self healing embedded within the platform, that saves a lot of time for the testing team, and you can actually maybe execute 100% of the scripts. That's very interesting. And I
And
think, Pankaj, one thing that I've noticed specifically with your platform is you're also providing a lot of prefabricated automation assets along with your product. It
that's
is
correct.
not just a platform to develop scripts. You're also giving some components that will definitely help an organization or a product team in order to speed up the testing. So, can you throw some light around some of those capabilities that you're offering around prefabricated assets?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great question, man. Thank you for bringing that up. one of the biggest differentiators why our customers are loving OpKey is the fact that you know uh, we can quickly onboard them onto the platform, and that's the fastest in the industry. And one of the reason is that, let's say we go and we work with Pfizer, right? Now we don't have to. I mean, they have their whole set of suites on test cases on, let's say, Oracle. Now, if they use some other platform, it would take 4 or 5 months for them to onboard, right? With OpKey,
Mm-hmm.
we have these pre-built test cases and test suites built around specific verticals for Oracle, for SAP, and for all the other ERP applications that can be pre-configured to their configurations, and they can quickly come and onboard. Right? So
Mm-hmm.
while you would see a traditional cycle of 4 to 5 month onboarding with any other automation platform, with us it's like 3 to 4 weeks. Within three to
Mm-hmm.
four weeks, 80% or 90% of their test cases come onto OpKey, and that
Mm-hmm.
really helps them accelerate the testing and improve their ROI. So that's a big
Mm.
win for
Okay, that's cool because if we actually have something to start with, that definitely helps the product teams to actually improve the speed at which they actually what do you call design automation skills, because I think that's where majority of the time is actually spent. Like you take a lot of time to start off with test automation, designing your automation assets. So if we can actually speed up the time, nothing like it. Yeah,
Absolutely. And
that's very
I mean,
good to
at
know.
this point of time, we have close to 24,000 pre-built assets across seven different
Hmm.
ERPs.
Okay,
And
can you tell me the names of those some of those apps that you're supporting? I know
sure,
definitely there's Microsoft CRM and a couple of others. If you can actually list down those package applications, that will be a good set of inputs for our listeners as well.
absolutely. So we right now support natively, we support Oracle, Oracle
Mm-hmm.
EBS, and Oracle Cloud,
Okay.
SAP, both ECC
Mm-hmm.
and S4 HANA. We support
Mm-hmm.
Workday, Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, Kronos, Viva. We are the base technology partner of Viva.
Hmm.
You know,
Okay.
pharma. So we have these assets built across all of these platforms, and more and more assets are being built as we speak. We believe that this is going to be one of the biggest productivity enhancer for any team adopting OpKey for these applications.
Okay. That's very good to know. And I know that you have a very strong development team working on the OpsKey platform. So, what are some of the case capabilities that they can expect in the platform, maybe in the next, maybe like 6 to 12 months of time frame?
Yeah, yeah. I think next 6 to 12 months, two or three things that are going to come out, and we are focusing more on that. One is more capabilities around discovery and automated test documentation. So what's
Mm-hmm.
happening is, the more we discover a customer's business process, the more it will give us insights into the fact that how the test documentation has to be prepared. And I mean, my personal vision and dream is to I want to eliminate this entire test documentation process and let software create that test documentation and maintain that for you, particularly for packaged application. So you
Mm-hmm.
will see lot of developments coming from that perspective. From the technology perspective, we are going to integrate performance and security testing for these packaged applications into OpKey. So there
Oh,
is a
okay. So it's
separate.
going to be a complete end-to-end platform where you can do both functional as well as non-functional testing.
Absolutely. So that's one track that is happening. And the third track that we are working on is adding more and more ERPs. By end of this year, we
Mm-hmm.
would have 14 different ERP packages that we would support. So
Okay.
that's another track that is coming on.
Okay, so you want to primarily focus on the ERP side of things. And I know that there has been a lot of traction, especially around packages like Salesforce, where they're expecting a huge increase in their customers. So I think you're in the right direction when it comes to package application automation. So one additional question around package application, Pankaj, like I've seen a lot of organizations implementing DevOps, but it's mostly confined to custom applications. For example, like it can be for a Java or a .NET based kind of development. Even though there are tools that supports what do you call DevOps for applications like Salesforce, the adoption levels have not been so high when it comes to package application. Have you seen a similar trend? Because you talk to a lot of ERP customers, so are you seeing an increasing trend in the DevOps adoption, or is it like more around the custom application development side?
No. So at this point of time, it's more around the custom application. You're absolutely right in that observation, George. But companies are now realizing that the speed. So, for example, many of the companies that we work with, they're migrating their legacy ERPs onto this cloud ERPs, right? And most of these companies are trying to adopt the ERP and the agile best practices. Now, as part of that, they are looking for options that can help them in the entire DevOps ecosystem for, let's say, SAP or for Oracle. So unfortunately, at this time, not many great options exist. But this is the area where the disruption is going to happen over next 3 to 4 years, or I would say 5 year time frame.
Mm-hmm.
DevOps or ERP applications and packaged applications is going to become a norm, and more and more tools like Copado and and a lot of other tools that we know of. There was a beautiful tool called Rapid for Cloud that we saw recently, which is
Mm-hmm.
doing DevOps for for Oracle ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So I see that space consolidating and coming up. But right now, you're right. DevOps is very mature for custom applications, but it's not that mature for these enterprise business applications.
Okay. And when it comes to package application, Pankaj, are the set of challenges that you come across when you're trying to automate a package application like Salesforce or maybe like Microsoft CRM Dynamics very different from what you would actually come across when you're trying a custom app, maybe a website that's developed maybe using Angular or Java?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's a great question, man. I would define those challenges in two broad categories, right?
Mm-hmm.
One is the business challenges, and one is the technology challenge. So,
Okay.
if I talk about business challenge, the biggest problem that we face when we go to a big, large MNC is that, let's say, they are migrating their Oracle EBS to Oracle Cloud, right? Now, Oracle EBS has been implemented over last 15, 20 years. The problem is that now they don't have any test documentation, man. They don't understand the scope of their processes like P2P or O2C. They're doing it well, but for migration, how do they define the testing effort, right? So the discovery of their existing as is processes and stuff like that, I see that as one of the biggest challenges even before they start doing automation. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
written test documentation. And that's where our discovery tool, the way we are trying to solve that problem, is using process mining and a configuration mining combination that we call test mining over there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where we go and discover and create test documentation automatically. So I think that's one of the key challenges from the business side, if I can say. Skills
Okay.
is another challenge, right? Because the most of the people that use these packaged applications are functional users, right, or the business
Yep.
users, and they won't like to code. Even if they know how to code, they won't code, right?
Yep.
They cannot use these traditional tools. So the no code and low code approach has to be spot on with them.
Mm-hmm.
On the
Okay.
technology front, the problem is that these open source tools, I mean, these are different applications. The whole architecture of packaged applications is metadata driven, which means that
Mm-hmm.
the UI is created runtime, right? The IDs
Yep.
change and everything change, right, from time to time. So the problem with that particular approach is that these tools that work on these DOMs and stuff like that, that fail. So you cannot just
Mm.
pick up Selenium and hope to automate Oracle Cloud, because your effort will go to waste as soon as a new update of Oracle Cloud comes,
Yep.
right, within a quarter. That's where you require that technology to understand metadata and drive your automation based on metadata.
Mm.
These are the two
Okay.
broad challenges. It's not easy to solve.
Okay. Maybe my final question, Pankaj, is around skills. So there are a lot of good functional testers. I've seen a lot of them who are very good on applications like Salesforce or what do you say, Oracle Business Suite or even Workday. And they want to definitely shift to automation, but they're not very good at what do you say, on the programming side, or they've not even learned test automation. So what are some of the what is your advice to these folks who are actually functional experts and they have a desire to actually move on to test automation?
Yeah. Yeah. So my advice to them is, I mean, they don't have to learn coding or programming, at least these days, in this age of no code and low code, to come into test automation. However, the logics have to be improved, man. I'm telling you,
Hmm.
even if you have to use a no code platform like OpKey, we see a lot of finance folks working. They're very, very strong in the business aspect of it, but they also have these logic building capabilities where they know how to combine these Lego blocks together to create this end-to-end business processes, right?
Hmm.
So I would advise all the listeners of your podcast out there who want to come into test automation from the functional areas, work on the end-to-end business processes, understand how these business processes work from the logic of not just your area but end-to-end business processes. And then there are enough tools out there that would allow you to come and join this journey.
Okay. So thank you so much, Pankaj, for covering what do you call a lot of queries around test automation. And I'm also very excited to hear that you're also building non-functional capabilities around the platform. So we'll definitely connect with you maybe in the next couple of months to gain some insights on these non-functional testing capabilities, because it's very interesting to see a complete testing platform rather than just test automation being built. So we'll definitely love to connect with you in the coming days. And thank you so much for joining.
Thank you very much for having me here. We are, as always, it's a pleasure talking to you, George, and keep up the good work you're doing with this podcast, man.
Thank
Great
you.
one.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pankaj.